Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing good, Kent. How are you?
Doing well. Good to see you. Uh,
You too.
I've got a burning question to share, Dave, and you're just the guy to run it by. We know that from all the reporting that the fundamentalist and evangelical Christian sect in the country are ardent supporters of the president, and this mystifies me. If you're knowledgeable at all of the King James Bible and its tenets and teachings and so forth, there's such an incongruity between what this president stands for, how he represents himself, how he talks, and what these people claim to believe. What's going on? Why is that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do, Kent. And we know from human psychology that the brain is quite malleable, and you can make people believe about anything. And I've thought a lot about how the Christian right, nationalists, fundamentalists, whatever you want to call them, have accepted Donald Trump as their warrior, as their leader in politics. And it's a thing in psychology we call cognitive dissonance. They look at Trump and say, he's nothing like us, and he doesn't believe what we believe. He doesn't act like we think he should act like. But what they do is what humans typically do. They begin to look at this conflict and they begin to find a objective, or not objective, but what they consider a rational explanation. In this case, they say, well, this is God's plan. It was a pretty clever trick on God's part, because he sent Donald Trump down as a sort of cloaked as this shady business guy, corrupt guy from New York that, ostensibly anybody would hate. And he's here to save us. So he's going to take on these effete liberal snobs who want to attack us and say we're not scientific, and they're using their science to undermine what we believe. It's like any cult. You have charismatic leaders, you have groups, and they are giving up their identity and their individuality to this leader, and they feel comfortable there. So Donald Trump is going to fight against all of the forces of evil they see to undermine what any cult really hates to have happen, is what we believe really doesn't make sense.
Sure. That's well said, Dave. That makes a lot of sense. I have a term for some of this. I call it cut and paste Christianity. The approach to that is teachings and beliefs and so forth that I subscribe to and feel like I represent in my life. I will strongly defend and talk about all day long. Something that conflicts with that I don't have an explanation for or isn't convenient for me to work with, I'll just disregard it. I won't think about it.
Absolutely, and I think this is really a dangerous aspect of human behavior, because when you look at the Christian right-wing fundamentalists in this country, you see intolerance. You see the tendency to support an autocrat or a leader who can manipulate. And we, as thinking individuals, have to not be tolerant of that, because they're not going to be tolerant of us. And I don't mean intolerance in the sense of just shutting them up, but intolerant in the sense of calling them out. I think there's too much equivalence going on in our public discourse. Well, hey, they're Christians. They have a right to believe what they believe, which is true. However, they don't have a right to impose it on other people. And believe me, they will do that.
Exactly.
And we need to support the few well-known speakers like Frank Schaeffer and Catherine Stewart on putting out a lot of information on exactly who these people are and what they're trying to do.
That's a very important point right there. It sure is. And to your point, Dave, about how I've heard that mentioned before too, that they feel like the president was called by God or was placed there by God and so forth. Well, these same people also believe that Satan is another energy or source. And so a response I have to that is, are you sure he wasn't called by Satan instead of God? and that usually changes the nature of the conversation. So,
Or on the flip side of that, Kent, they see Satan in the liberal movement. They see Satan in civil rights, in all of the movements that are challenging them. And I think what's scary about this whole thing is we know from history, we know from psychological research that you can make humans believe about anything. We
sure.
can construct a social reality, and the only way to counter that is with facts, objectivity, doubt, skepticism. These are all things that cannot be tolerated in that movement because it immediately will cause them to lose their momentum and their power. And the leaders won't allow that to happen.
Right.
And the true believers in the mission won't allow that to happen. I know astrophysicists, by the way, who believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. I've had many discussions with them about the science of paleontology. No matter how objective your facts are, they will filter those out. Can't.
Yes. Well, the Earth is 6,000 years old, millions of times over, right? So.
Right. But you know, if you're a PhD in physics, and you can be a believer that God took a rib from Adam and made the woman, or you can believe that some supernatural force decided all of a sudden to create a material world. Well, imagine what you can make anyone believe.
Sure.
About that.
That's right. And likewise, I don't believe this particular population is receptive to any alternative thought regarding this. They're locked down. When some sort of misfortune or bad experience befalls them for any reason, they have a very convenient explanation for that was divine ordinance or what have you, and are able to embrace it from that perspective. So I found that trying to have an open discussion and bring up some of these points and ask questions to engage a different line of thinking just doesn't resonate. It doesn't go there. So
it doesn't. I think it's important for the broader mass of society to, or for those of us who do look at the world scientifically, it's really important for us to confront these folks, because if we don't, they will continue to expand. They will continue to look for people who are needy, who are looking for something to belong to, and so they get a spiritual home, they get a leader, and there's a certain personality type that really plays into that, and we need to really be working on calling them out.
That's an extremely important point, Dave. And we're coming close to the end of our time here, but I would like, if you're agreeable, to schedule another conversation with you to where we can address specifically how that confrontation should be formed and executed, and what the objective of doing so might be. I think that could be a very important conversation.
I agree, Kent. I think we should do a series of these kinds of video programs to help the broader public who doesn't have a lot of time to think about these things to understand, because understanding what's going on here is going to be extremely important.
I
think
agree.
we can
I
do
agree.
that.
And I'm all in. I'm here for you in that regard. So, Dave, thanks so much for your time today. These are really important thoughts and insights, and I hope they will be found valuable to our viewers.
Well, thank you, Ken. I'm looking forward to future video programs like this.
You bet. Have a good day, sir.
You too, Ken.